body positivity, healthy at every size. We want to say it's okay that you eat whatever you want, as much as you want, and that's healthy too.
Then 21 Day Fix came out. What was that like?
21 Day Fix wasn't just big for a second. It was years.
What are people doing wrong working out, whether it's gym or at home, when it comes to hormone health?
I think we're trying to beat our bodies into submission.
But why is it so important to bring in these parasympathetic tools like breathwork into their life?
This is the easiest tool you will ever implement. We all breathe, so you're doing it anyways.
And for people that don't know, what is the 478?
So it's...
Autumn, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh my gosh, the pleasure is all mine. Next time we do this, I mean, we're doing this studio to studio, but next time you have to come into the telehealth clinic and we'll hang out.
Yes, I know. I was so bummed that I didn't get to come this time like I was planning on.
It's all right. Hey, that's why we're with Dear Media, and you have amazing studios there in West Hollywood, and we'll make it happen. So
Yes.
Let's jump into, I want to go way back. Cleveland, Ohio. Can we just make a little tiny little window within this conversation to give Cleveland some love? Because Cleveland is one of my favorite cities, and people are like, why? Why is it one of your favorite? I just think there's so much like life to it. But as someone from Cleveland, what's your take on one of my favorite cities?
Yeah, shout out to Cleveland, born and raised. I love Cleveland. You know, I don't get back as often as I would like to, even though the majority of my family is there. But it is such a cool city. It has I feel like a rich history and just energy to it, and downtown. And like, I grew up in the 80s down there where it was just popping. There's no other word for it.
Have you been to town? Every time I talk about Cleveland, I have to talk about Town Hall. Have you ever been to Town Hall before?
I want to say I have.
It's a restaurant. It's a restaurant, not the actual town hall like City
Right.
Hall. It's a restaurant. You have to go. It's one of the busiest restaurants, I think, in the country. Statistically, is what I've heard. But it has completely healthy food, no seed oils, lots of grass-fed, organic options, and you wouldn't know it to see it. Aesthetically, it's intentionally like a pub, like a bar, a sports bar, but it is super high quality food. This episode is not sponsored by Town Hall in Cleveland, but I just love it that much. And they have these amazing keto smoothies, and it's a gem, and it's in Cleveland.
Maybe I haven't. I feel like I've heard of it if I haven't been there. Like I said, it's been a minute, so I guess the next time I go back, I'm going to Town Hall.
Next time you go back, let me know when you go back, and I'll meet you there, because I'm only like 2.5 hours from there, so that's why I love it so much, because it's not.
Oh my gosh, perfect.
Yeah,
that's perfect.
So good. And Kayla Barnes, do you know Kayla Barnes? I have to connect you two.
We've connected over social media. I haven't met her yet, but we've connected via social. I'm like following her religiously right now, obviously after the fires here in LA. She's been doing a lot of talking about the effects and the air quality and detoxing. So very big fan of hers, but I have not met her in person yet.
And you're both from Cleveland, living in LA. I mean, I feel like I should be a Cleveland matchmaker. You guys need to hang out. Come on, there's no excuse for that.
That would be amazing.
Yeah. So, okay. So let's go. Growing up in Cleveland, like, where did you get your start, and how does a girl from Cleveland jump into being like one of the biggest voices and people in the fitness and wellness world?
Oh, gosh. So, I mean, I was born and raised in Cleveland. I grew up in a really small Italian neighborhood called Collinwood. From there, we moved more to the suburbs, went to school in Mayfield, went to Mayfield High School for a while. But I actually, then I left. I went and lived with my mom in St. Louis. Then I went to college in St. Louis where I was a dance major. So I always had a very big passion for being active. Like, if you ask my family, they joke that I came out of the womb dancing because my mom didn't make it into the delivery room with me. And I never sat still ever since. So I really loved being active. And I think that's how I found my way into fitness. That's where I went first. After I left college, I didn't graduate. I left a semester early with a bulging disc in my lower spine and just so much pain at the time that it was, if I didn't stop dancing that many hours a day in a week, I was going to end up in back surgery before I was 21 years old. That's when I decided to move to LA. Always wanted to live in LA. That was the big dream, was to get here. I wanted to act. I wanted to dance. I wanted to do all the things. And so I was doing all of that. I was auditioning. I was dancing. I was taking acting classes. I did get my SAG card from being bumped up on some commercial roles a few times. But ultimately, that was getting very challenging, and I was getting very tired of waiting tables. I knew I needed a real career path. So I was trying to decide what to do. People kept saying, teach dance. But I had a pretty rough experience in college with just the head of my department, the ballet master, being very emotionally abusive, I would say, about dance, that I would say I was traumatized. When I left college, I couldn't step foot in a dance classroom for years. I just didn't feel like I could do it. And even when I finally went back to dance, I took myself back to the most basic entry-level class ever, to the point where the teacher was like, "What are you doing in here?" So I knew I couldn't teach dance, but I actually have a really big passion for teaching and helping and inspiring people. That's what led me to get my first certification in training. And I went through the National Academy of Sports Medicine. And that's really how it started, was that certification and doing in-home personal training.
Wow, got it. So, and thank you for being so vulnerable and sharing about that, sort of like the trauma that you saw around dancing. And what was that like? You mentioned not being able to even walk into a dance class for a season of your life. Or what went through what was somatically going on when you thought of dancing during that time?
It was just an overwhelming feeling of not being good enough. I was always, nothing I did in college was good enough for the ballet master. And because ballet was not my first love, I love watching people dance ballet, but I started dance much later. My body was not built for ballet. So I was a jazz dancer. That's what I wanted to do. And so we butted heads quite a bit because my passion wasn't in ballet. And so there, like I said, it was at a time where they were allowed to say what they wanted and treat you how they wanted. And he basically told me he was never going to let me graduate with my dance degree because you had to be cast in the final show. And he just said, "I'm not going to cast you." Basically, told me, if you stay here, you're never finishing this degree. Which is crazy when you think about it. I applied, you took me into the program, I auditioned, I'm paying for it. And so there was so much, I think there was a lot more trauma around it than I realized, a lot more emotional, just emotional trauma than I realized for years. And in fact, a lot of it came up when I had to create a dance program for Beachbody. Country Heat, which was a very, what we wanted was a really fun, basic steps to country music so that people would just get up and get moving and have fun with it. And everything came up during the creation and production of that program. So that was, I feel like that was like a cathartic experience, but a hard one to create. One of the hardest programs I ever created.
Wow. So, that makes complete sense to me with the work that we do in functional medicine. We know the trauma could be stored in the body, and it's not the event itself per se. It's the response, the body's response to the event, and things we kind of gaslight ourselves, think it's not that bad, or you're just so busy with life and you don't even really think about it until something comes up, like some sort of trigger comes up, and it all kind of resurfaces in the body and in the mind. So you mentioned being a trainer, kind of in the training world. Let's kind of make that link and go into the sort of your early days with Beachbody and this coming up with dance. But how did you get connected to Beachbody?
So I had been a personal trainer for probably almost 10 years at this point. I was making a name for myself in LA. I had been written up in several publications and magazines and things like that. I also, obviously, at this point had recognized the importance of nutrition and how nutrition impacts us. And I was seeing my clients struggle quite a bit. They would come into the gym and really we were just focusing on the workouts. But I training, a large majority of my clients would train 4 to 5 days a week. with me for an hour at a time. And they're going through it, they're putting in the work, and progress was being made. Like, we would see strength gains for sure. We would see flexibility and mobility improve, and we would see some weight loss. But for people that had a bigger weight loss goal, we weren't seeing what I knew we should be seeing. And so finally I had to recognize and get into the topic of, well, what are you eating? Because we're putting the work in here. So there's other things going on. And obviously, I've been in the industry now 20 years. So what I know now, I didn't know back then. And it's progressed because obviously it's not just what we eat. It is our stress levels and our sleep and the toxin. But at the time, I was focused very much on just like, let's talk about basic nutrition. And I went out to lunch with one of my friends who I also was training. And we ate at a very popular restaurant here in LA. We got salads, but they were enormous. So probably 4 or 5 servings of veggies in there. Great. But also chicken to match. There was pasta in it. There was croutons. There was cheese. There was salad dressing to top it. And I remember she ate the whole salad. Like, we had finished a training session. She ate the whole salad. I had eaten a part of mine. And I kind of looked across at her and I was like, I think that's our problem. And she said, what do you mean? That I ate a salad? And I was like, well, that's a big salad. And she's like, Autumn, it's a salad with chicken. And we pulled up the nutritional information on the menu because that's required here in LA. And I want to say it was close to a 2,000 calorie salad.
Oh my God.
You're thinking about what's in the dressing because who knows what was in the dressing even.
Right.
And she's my size, 5'4". And this again was 11, 12 years ago. So thinking about it, okay, she's still going to go out and probably drink at night. And that was only her second meal of the day. She's going to have dinner. So we're probably well over the nutrient that we needed. And we were probably very imbalanced in terms of our macronutrients. Mm-hmm. So that's what I started to dig into. And I created what was called Change My Plate at the time, which was just a way to start showing people how to balance their portions. Like, eat the food you love. Let's just have it in the right portion size. Like, let's not overdo the alcohol. Let's not overdo the chips and the chocolate and the desserts. When it finally got created and finished, I took it to one of my clients who's very big in the film industry. They passed it on to a friend of theirs who they were trying to get in shape, help lose weight and get in shape. He was not interested in it in the least, but he had a friend at Beachbody. And he said, I think I know somebody that might be interested in this. Can I pass it along? Well, he passed it on to the head of product development at Beachbody. They passed it on to the CEO, Carl Deichler. And actually, it's funny. I didn't know this at the time, but it kind of goes through a rigorous screening process. And there were a few people that were like, nah, pass on that. But head of product development was like, I think this is the right fit. I'm pushing it through to the CEO. And
the rest is history.
The rest is history. Here we are.
Yeah, so that was, you mentioned the plate. That was the early conception of the 21-day fix. Explain that to me. Is that the same program in its early days?
It's Change My Plate is the early conception of what turned into the nutrition component of 21-day fix. Which,
got it.
When I created on my own, it was not color-coded containers, but the containers were sized. And that it was more just about, when I created it, it was more just about serving size, but I hadn't quite added in the balanced macronutrients yet. When I signed with Beachbody, there were certain things that obviously with a bigger amount of funding, we were able to start really diving into and adding layers into the program to make it fit for people and all of their goals, be it weight loss, weight maintenance, muscle building, body composition, recomposition, all those things. So that's how it came about.
That's the background of it. That's fascinating. And I mean, obviously, like you said, you were creating a name for yourself within the fitness training world within LA. But would you say that sort of convergence with Beachbody and all that they had going on, that what you created on your own and then sort of collaborated with Beachbody, what became the 21-day fix, it kind of was that what you would call your big break, or it was like cultural, iconic, like zeitgeist type moment in the wellness world?
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, while I was making a name for myself, by no means did I have the impact or the reach that I was able to have with Beachbody. And when we launched, while we all anticipated that it would do well, none of us, I think, anticipated the phenomenon that 21 Day Fix became.
Yeah.
And just how many people's lives it would impact.
Right. So, and I wasn't, I don't think that I didn't know about it. I heard about it peripherally, but I wasn't probably the target audience. But every single person on my telehealth team, well, we obviously know each other now and are talking about our work together. Everybody was a super fan of that. I mean, it just changed their life. What do you think was so special about it? And do you think it would, if you brought it out now, do you think it would have the same response, or was it the right place, right time, plus the right program?
I think it was right place, right time, right program, for sure. I think it was the simplification of nutrition, right? It's things have gotten so complicated in the world that we're in now. And that's also because, as you know, more and more frankenfoods are being added and harder to resist and designed for us to be addicted to. So it was this way of people being able to see, like, oh, I can eat all the foods that I like, right? Like the chips, like I said, the desserts, the alcohol. But if I'm really doing that in moderation and I'm not making it an all day, everyday thing, and I'm balancing it with really nutrient dense foods, fruits and veggies and lean protein and healthy carbohydrates, those leave me feeling full and satiated. So I'm not starving. I don't feel like I'm on a diet. I'm not restricted because I know I can have these things. And then 30 minutes of movement a day. So 30-minute workouts with a modifier, seeing people in the cast of all ages and all shapes and sizes and going, okay, it's 30 minutes. And then also it's a 3-week program. It's 21 days. That is a very bite-size, I can do this for 21 days. And during those 21 days, you start to see and feel the progress so quickly that as you're getting that reward, of course you want to keep going because you're seeing the result of your hard work. It's not months and months and months of effort and there's no change. I don't think I will say this, it's still one of our top 10 viewed programs of all time, so it definitely still has an impact. I think the world we live in is a little bit, they want to label everything diet culture. Like the second you're not saying eat whatever you want and that's healthy, it's diet culture. So I think it would be met with a little bit more resistance if it was just coming out.
Yeah. Okay. We have to dial in on this because I want to get your hot take on that sort of phenomenon and culture that we're living in. Is it just as strong? Because I'm in my weird bubble in functional medicine. Like I hear it from time to time on social media. I'm not paying too much attention to it on a day-to-day basis. Is that sort of anti-diet culture overcorrection, I would say, where you label any food change as like toxic diet culture, and it's conflated with health at every size. There's no such thing as bad food, and sort of what I would call, again, this overcorrection where we've kind of ignored science now, and it's like it's just placating and enabling a really disordered eating around metabolic syndrome and obesity and type 2 diabetes. So what's your take on it? Are we coming out of that era, or are we here to stay?
I do feel like we're sort of coming out of the era, but also in a not fantastic way. And maybe you could give me your take on it. So a few years ago, we had the huge body positivity, healthy at every size, which is very interesting. And I always use this example that there's two sides to a coin. And we would not look at somebody who was severely underweight, diagnosed anorexia, right? And we wouldn't look at them and say healthy at any size. As a community, I think we would all recognize, hey, we need to show that person love and support and get them some help because this is a very dangerous territory to be in. But the other side of that coin, we don't seem to want to recognize that, like, this is also a very dangerous, unhealthy place to be. And we want to just make it okay. We want to say, it's okay that you eat whatever you want as much as you want, and that's healthy too. We are starting to correct that. But what I'm seeing is a lot of almost going back to the skinny days. Like, oh, like, forget the work, let's just be skinny. Because we have a big movement right now with GLP-1s and things like that. And by the way, there is a place for things like that. Absolutely. People need it. It's a medication. People need help with it. And so I'm not against that, and I'm not shaming anybody for it. But I do think we're almost seeing this like, okay, you're right. I want to feel and look a certain way, but I still don't know if I want to do the work that it takes to address the health side of it.
Yeah.
I hope I'm explaining that in a way that does not make people think I'm being judgmental, because I'm not.
No, I don't hear that at all. Yeah, there's going to be those that are committed to misunderstanding us, but that's a very small fraction of people. I think most people get the nuance and context of what we're talking about. It's like, yes, and we've talked about it on the podcast a lot, that it is a peptide, GLP-1 agonist. There's ways to use it in addition to healthy lifestyle. We do put it in telehealth patient protocols, low dose, like microdose when you need to. But the crazy thing is you don't oftentimes need it and certainly don't need it for long when you pair it with actually dealing with why you have a metabolic problem in the first place, which is not a semaglutide deficiency. So let's figure out how we can get your body to do it on its own and produce these peptides on its own and signaling molecules on their own. So I think that's a really interesting take on it. And you're right. It is. We love to overcorrect, and we are always either looking to be enabled and placated, or a quick fix to just like take this wonder drug and it's about thinness above all else, without seeing this perspective that you and I have of getting healthy to lose weight, not trying to lose weight to get healthy. Like if you focus on health, vibrant wellness first, then a healthy metabolic health will be a natural byproduct of that. And that's what you and I think is missing from this GLP-1 conversation as it relates to how America is doing it, right?
Right. Absolutely. Like, for those that need it, yes, absolutely. But we know that if you don't tie it with the fitness, with the nutrition, there's a lot of things that can come into play that could be a problem. Losing muscle mass, bone density. Is your heart strong? Are your lungs strong? Or, all of those things, like metabolic, what are we eating? Just because you're taking the GLP-1, are you getting the fiber that you need? Is your gut health in a good place? How is that going to impact your hormone health? Like, or are we just taking this so that I sort of forget to eat?
Right. And we've talked on the podcast about obviously that gastroparesis and the digestive problems that people are having from these macro doses, like these higher therapeutic doses that people are given with these medications. And then more recently, these studies of this eye disease, this inflammatory eye disease, where some people are going blind, albeit it's not a massive percentage of people. But look, if people are not, there should be informed consent around these medications. They do come with potential side effects.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's where, when it's not coming necessarily from a doctor, obviously you can get them online now. Not sure exactly what you might be getting or not getting when you're getting it like that, and not through working with your doctor. That's where obviously things can probably get out of control very quickly. Yeah.
All right. So then 21 Day Fix came out. At this point, are you thinking, how do I top this? Like, I just made this sort of zeitgeist moment. What was that like from a professional training standpoint and content creator after the 21 Day Fix?
It's really, it's an interesting thing to look at or look back on, because in the moment, 21 Day Fix wasn't just big for a second. It was years of just a tidal wave of, this is when we still had all the marketing on TV, the infomercials. And so it was the number one infomercial for 14 weeks, not just in health and fitness, but in all infomercials on TV. It stayed in the top 10 infomercials for 2 years. So it was just kind of everywhere. We were getting knocked off faster than our attorney could serve cease and desists. Like, on the daily, there was hundreds of those going out, of people knocking off the container system and things like that. We've watched the workout. So when Carl came to me, that's our CEO, and was like, okay, we're going to do your next program, and I want 21 Day Fix Extreme. It definitely was, it was super exciting, but it was okay, what am I going to do with this? to make it just as good as or better than. And while 21 Day Fix Extreme did very well, it is just that. It's extreme. So the workouts were significantly harder. There was actually quite a big gap. I always say this now. There's a pretty big gap between 21 Day Fix and 21 Day Fix Extreme in terms of the intensity of the workouts. Still 30 minutes, still a modifier, but definitely a harder version. I added in what I would call sort of like tricks to manipulating your nutrition. So I added in carb cycling. It was something we use as fitness competitors. But I was very careful to explain, this is your ace up the sleeve. This is not an all the time thing. You don't have to carb cycle. You don't have to fear carbs. But let's say you got a big event coming up. You're going on vacation and you kind of waited till the last minute and you want to drop a little extra. It's going to help you drop some water weight because we're cutting back on the carbs, like we're cycling them through. But we still need to go back to healthy eating after, like just normal healthy eating. You can do this for a couple weeks, but then I would only use the carb cycling once every 3 or 4 months. Don't make it a regular thing. So that one did very well, nowhere near the phenomenon of 21 Day Fix. And that, it's hard. I have to put myself in a place of, I had to very quickly learn, it's not about, is it going to be this monster blockbuster phenomenon? As the programs came in, I really had to focus on just what is the goal and who is the person I'm trying to serve? And let me just serve that person the best I can. And some of them will be for everybody, and some of them are going to be a little more niche. So Fix Extreme, a little more niche because it's so much harder. Then we went on to the Masters Hammer and Chisel. So I teamed up with one of our other trainers, Sagi Kalev, who is a bodybuilder. I was a fitness competitor, and we did a combination program together. But again, still going to serve more of a niche market. It was very much about body composition and building your body and cutting and shredding, all those things. Then we went into Country Heat, which was the country dance program. So same thing, not going to be for everybody. It wasn't until we got to 80 Day Obsession that there was another monster hit phenomenon. Yeah, that really took it by storm.
Yeah, so tell me, I don't know that much about that one. So what happened there? What was the impetus behind it, the creative process? I want to know all about it.
So 80 Day Obsession launched like 2017, 2018. And the thought was the CEO had asked for a program that was focused on abs and booty gains. Like, so define the core, build the butt. Like that at the time we were seeing that very much was a thing that women especially were focusing on. And I remember saying to him, okay, like you're asking me again to do body recomposition. That doesn't happen in 21 days. That doesn't even happen in 6 weeks. This is a 3-month program. I need time. And I'm going to have to put a different type of nutrition to this. We really got to eat like an athlete and fuel our bodies like an athlete to get there. And he was like, okay. It was also at the time the world of infomercials was going away. The world of DVDs were disappearing and everything was going online. So what's interesting was he had the idea about Country Heat, which was a country dance program, and an abs and booty program at the same time for me. He knew we were going to do one and then I was going to do the other one. I was struggling so hard with the creation of Country Heat at the time. Like we couldn't get the format down of what we wanted it to be. And it got to the point we were sitting in a meeting and he was like, look, maybe we just pivot away from this and do the abs and the booty program first and we can circle back to this. And I'm very stubborn. And I was like, no, I'm going to get it. I'm going to figure out what you want and I'm going to create it. And I'm so glad I did because if we had pivoted, 80 Day Obsession would not at all be the program that it ended up being because we were still very much in the DVD world during Country Heat. So when we started to build the program and I said 3 months, Carl asked me, how do you feel about filming this in real time? And I said, well, what does that mean? And he said, you got a 3-month program. You're going on set every day for 3 months so that people can watch the transformation of you and your cast.
Wow.
And he said, it's never been done before, Autumn. And I love that. I love that challenge. I'm like, never been done before? I get to be the first? Yes. So I got to write with that in mind, that with periodization and proper period, like it was the first time I could really get deep into the programming and changing the programming phase by phase and week by week. And it was so much fun. And I put in timed nutrition with that. So really taking your containers and your macronutrients and timing it around fueling your body before your workout and what do we need to fuel it with afterwards and things like that. And just really keeping your meals balanced all throughout the day. And it was so much fun. We filmed for 13 weeks, Monday through Friday so hour-long workouts Monday through Friday with doubles on Fridays, so 2 hours on Friday. And for 13 weeks, myself and my cast showed up every single day. No one got injured. Nobody got sick. And we had the best time. But it was really the concept of time nutrition that drove people wanting their hands on that program. Like when the time came to start marketing it and we talked about and fueling your body like an athlete and time nutrition, everybody was like, what is this? I need this now. And yeah, at launch, I think we had 280,000 people start it together on day one.
Oh my gosh. That is crazy, Autumn. That is such a cool story. So when you say time nutrition, are we talking like time compressed feeding, time restricted feeding, like using intermittent fasting within the protocol?
I did not use intermittent fasting with that one. Okay. I'd never introduced intermittent fasting actually until Belle Vitale. No, it was more, it was more about, okay, you're going to eat, again, you're going to eat before your workout. A lot of people were working out fasted. And obviously, like bio-individuality, some people function really great on fasted workouts. Some people need food before. But I was very much going into the athlete form of, again, what I had used during fitness competitions and body recomposition and trying to get people to not fear food. I really feel like that has been something that has been ingrained in us for a long time, is like the only way to lose weight or get in shape or get the body you want is to fear the food and cut back on the food and less calories and things like that. So I really wanted people to be like, we're going to eat something, even if it's a small something before the workout. Let's just because these are hard workouts. These are hour-longs, heavy lifting, intense cardio. Like, let's put some fuel in. So it was basically eating about every 3 to 4 hours and again, balancing their macronutrients and really focusing on that meal before and after their workouts to maximize energy that went into the workout and how their body rebuilt and recovered after the workout.
Got it. Amazing. Okay, so you mentioned Belle Vitale, and maybe kind of set the stage for how you and I met, kind of because a lot of this that I want to go into is your own health journey and then how that inspired on, okay, through your own health success, how you wanted to put this out in the world. But kind of how did you and I meet?
Well, I had been a huge fan of yours for years, following you, reading your books, and actually it started with my gut health. My gut health had been off for years, and I went undiagnosed for about 3 or 4 years with pretty severe gut health issues. And I did when I finally got diagnosed, I started making a lot of changes to my nutrition, supplementation, how I was working out. You were also launching your book on gut health at the same time. So I remember just reaching out like, hey, I love what you do. And then you and I connected and we talked and worked together, and you gave me some really great strategies for continuing to work on my gut health. And that's really how you and I started. And obviously I just continued to watch and learn from you and read. And then when my hormone issues started to come up, I was like, okay, here we go again. Like, this is the beauty. I always say you can learn. There's a silver lining in all of our problems. It's hard to find, especially if you're only focusing on the problem. But with my gut health journey, that was the first time I really learned to like flip the script for myself and go, okay, wait a minute. How can I use this to help other people? I have a platform and I have a voice. And if I'm struggling and I went undiagnosed while I was spending thousands and thousands of dollars seeing doctors trying to figure out what was wrong, I'm probably not the only one. And that's how I got to create the 4-Week Gut Protocol program to help people with their gut health. And so many people have found so much relief in just that 4-week program and doing it. And then same thing, when my hormones went completely out of whack, it was like out of nowhere. It really felt like it came out of nowhere. I'm sure it probably wasn't out of nowhere, and it's years and years and years of multiple different things. But all my symptoms culminated at one point. It was, and of course, it was on a massive work trip to Mexico where I had to be in workout clothes and bikinis the whole time. And I had gained 5 pounds in a week. I felt very inflamed. I couldn't stop crying. I was a mess. I had happened to have done blood work a few weeks earlier with my doctor that I see on a very regular basis. And when he pulled the blood work up when I got back, he's like, oh, you're a mess. Like everything was off. My bad estrogen was high. My good estrogen was low. My progesterone was bottomed out. My cortisol curve had been completely flattened. And I had signed up, the Integrative Institute of Nutrition had a hormone health course that they were starting. I had actually signed up for it 6 months earlier because they had sent me the email. I went on the waiting list for the class to start. So it was kind of crazy that before I was having any issues, I had signed up to take this basically 8-month intensive course on women's hormone health. It started at the exact right time that I was experiencing everything. So I started working on just fixing my own first and saying, you know, what's going on? I eat healthy. I exercise. I manage my sleep. Like I'm doing all the things. How is this happening? But the more I learned, for me personally, stress is, I would say stress and trauma. I have a lot of trauma in my life. And I'm not saying physical, I'm saying emotional trauma that I've dealt with over the years that has probably been very much suppressed. That probably, you know, came out in gut health and built up and turned into hormonal issues. And my doctor at the time even said, I can put you on every supplement there is and every hormone replacement therapy there is, Autumn. Because I was already on hormone replacement therapy at the time. And he said, until you manage your stress, there's only so much I can do for you. And that was where I started to add in breath work. And so I love that, doctor, but obviously you have such a voice and such a platform in all of functional medicine, gut health, hormone health. You talk about this stuff all the time. And I really wanted to make sure I had an amazing doctor on board with Belle Vitale when we were launching it so that women also felt really safe about what was being presented to them. And obviously that's when I reached out to you and sent you the program and asked what your thoughts were and if you were willing to come on board and do some videos to help women understand what is going on in their bodies and the things, the lifestyle choices that can be throwing things out of balance for us.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. And as you were going through that, I'm sure being so connected with your audience and community, I'm sure you've heard for years people tell similar stories of exactly what you're going on because it's so common, right? The people that have hormonal imbalance type symptoms, right? And you mentioned some of them. Is that the case? People on social media kind of sharing their hormone stories too?
Yeah, I was seeing so much of it. And here's the thing, because when we first started developing Belle Vitale, a lot of the team was like, okay, so it's a menopause program. And I'm like, no, it's not a perimenopause menopause. That's not what I'm doing. Yes, I'm 44. Yes, I'm in perimenopause. I'm not the only one struggling. I'm watching people in their 20s. You're seeing so many people struggle with infertility and just, all these other issues that come with hormone imbalance in their 20s, in their 30s, not just their 40s and 50s. I said, if I'm going to do this, I want to help everybody struggling.
Yeah.
I don't want to just limit it to, hey, you're in menopause and here's what's going on. It can help, obviously, with perimenopause and menopause as well, but I just didn't want to limit it. But yeah, I was seeing so many people sharing their struggles. Or what I was seeing a lot of too was them sharing their struggles, but not realizing that it was connected to their hormones.
Oh, yeah,
doing all
sure.
the things. I'm eating right. I'm just gaining weight. I'm emotional all the time. My husband and I are fighting. I have zero interest in sex. And all of that takes a toll on your relationships.
Yeah. Well, no, you're absolutely right. I mean, the people that we're seeing clinically, the people that you're educating within Belle Vitale, it's from your first period well beyond, postmenopausal, well beyond your last, because there's so many things that's going on in our modern world today. When you mentioned fertility, burnout, mood issues, some sort of dysregulation of that neuroendocrine axis. Okay, so let's break down some of the top myths and things that people are doing wrong when it comes to hormone health, and why you wanted to bring this protocol and program together to really set the record straight. And let's start with working out. Like, what are people doing wrong with working out, whether it's gym or at home or otherwise, when it comes to hormone health?
I think we're trying to beat our bodies into submission. So probably overtraining, because it's just the thought of, if I just do more, if I burn more calories, if I move more. So beating themselves up way too hard in the workouts and then not allowing for recovery. So not having a balance. Not saying you can't do intense workouts, because there is a benefit to that as well. But if it's only ever all intensity all the time, 6 days a week, 7 days a week, never taking a few days off to recover, just one thing to the next. Obviously, we're spiking the cortisol. We're if your body's already under stress and then you're putting it under more stress with the exercise or the type of exercise that you're doing, and there's no recovery, we're just messing everything up.
Yeah. Okay. So if we're taking sort of a this, not that, or a swap approach over these different pillars that you're exploring in Belle Vitale, like, what is the alternative? What should they be doing when it comes to the type of exercise? And we can get specific here when it comes to, getting that workout in, but having it being congruent to supporting hormone health.
Yeah. So what we did with Belle Vitale is I did a mix of Pilates, strength training, and I cut way back on the cardio. So while there is definitely a place for some HIIT cardio and some steady state cardio, and there's benefits from those, making those the main primary thing is definitely can be working against us. Again, if our body is already under a significant amount of stress. And by the way, stress does not just mean physical stress. It could be emotional. It could be like the mental stuff that's going on. It could be the stress from the food that you're eating. It could be your toxic load that maybe you're not even realizing you're exposed to. There could be way more stress on your body than what you even recognize. Or maybe you've just learned to live with it so much that it doesn't even register as stress anymore. So balancing out those harder workouts, those heavier workouts, those strength training workouts with something more restorative like Pilates is a great way to still get those workouts in and get that movement in. Because I know for me personally, my exercise really is also for my mental health. Like, that is my me time. That feels good. That puts me in the right state of mind to take on my day. So I don't want to just not move, but I need something that is going to make me feel like I'm working, but without feeling like I got hit by a truck afterwards. And that is the beauty of Pilates and using the door track in Belle Vitale. Like, you're going to work muscles and deep muscles and small muscles in ways you never expected. And when you walk away from the workout, you're like, okay, each move was challenging in the moment, but then I'm good. And you're okay the next day. And then when we get to one of those harder, heavier strength training days, one, you have the energy to give it your all. You probably have better form, better posture, better core support and stability, so you're protecting your back. You probably have more mobility in the hips, so you're getting proper range of motion. So you can really go all in on those strength training workouts. But then we're going to allow for recovery. We have 2 rest days a week in there. So the way I show the calendar is, yes, we do a Monday through Friday, but really people know that they can move their workouts and their rest days around for whatever their schedule needs or what their body feels it needs.
Got it. Wow. Yeah. That's great. So you're kind of weaving in the sort of yes, there's some heavier intensity days, but then you have these more restorative Pilates sessions. From people that, they maybe slightly loosely know what Pilates is or what it looks like, what does a Pilates session in Belle Vitale look like?
So Pilates in Belle Vitale, we're using the door track and the slides and the core ball. Basically, we're mimicking moves that you would do on the reformer, the big Pilates reformer, the Cadillac, and we can even mimic some moves from the F2 chair and the Wunda chair, which is quite incredible that we could take this one piece of equipment that wraps around a door and has different resistance bands and some Pilates handles attached to it. And we can mimic so much of the movement. We can engage the muscles in the same way that you would do by going and taking a really expensive Pilates class at a studio. You get to now do it right there in your home. And it is slower movement. It's not crazy high reps. We're doing 8 reps of each move. It's about being precise with your movement. It's about connecting your breath to the movement. So it's not just like a bull in a china shop where it's like move and push and go. It's really focused and concentrated movements to balance the body.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. All right, let's jump into fasting. You mentioned not using fasting throughout, historically in your different programs, but you did for this, where it is kind of, let's just use the word controversial. I've written a book that irritated some people, intuitive fasting, when it comes to talking about fasting and hormones and female health, and the context and nuance is lost there. But why did you want fasting involved with this hormone program in Belle Vitale? And then what's the right and what's the wrong way to fast when it comes to hormone health?
Yeah. So obviously, there's so much research now showing the benefits of fasting and how that can help with blood sugar stabilization and insulin sensitivity. It's also can be very beneficial for our gut health and allowing us more of that rest and digest time. And it can even help with our cortisol levels, but we have to be careful about how long we're doing it for, because it still, again, can be a stress on the body, especially if you're going for really long periods of time. And look, I'm somebody that shied away from it. You asked if I used it in any of my other programs, and I used to speak pretty vocally, not that it was a bad thing, but that I was always leery of even introducing it because I've seen people abuse it as a way to just not eat. Mm-hmm. But to sort of, no, I'm just fasting. Well, no, you haven't eaten in 30 hours plus, but you're doing these crazy intense workouts. Like that is a stress on your body. And that's getting into some dicey territory. And there's a place for all of it, obviously, at certain points. But I would always say to people, everybody should be fasting. If you eat dinner and you don't eat again till breakfast, you should probably have a pretty solid 12-hour fast under your belt anyways. So that was sort of the approach I would take for years with people, was like, I'm not really big on it, too much room for disordered eating around it. But obviously, I've done more and more research and learned more and more, and I was very prescriptive with how we were using fasting with Belle Vitale. So in the first month of the program, we just work on a 12-hour fast that you just don't, you eat dinner and then you don't eat again until you have breakfast and allow for 12 hours. And that alone, I've seen so many people's mindset shifts of it, because what it does is it helps them end the nighttime snacking. When they start to understand, I ate dinner, I'm in my fasting window, but if I go eat the chocolate or if I go eat the chips or if I go snack on whatever, I've now broken my fast and now I have to extend it longer into the morning. So many people were like, oh, it really just helped me get a handle on recognizing what a nighttime snacker I was. When I'm not hungry, I was eating out of boredom. And just doing that alone helps them start to feel better, sleep better, wake up more energized, less brain fog, because they didn't spike their blood sugar right before they went to bed. In phase 2, we move into a 13-hour fast. And a lot of this also has to do with how I'm manipulating the nutrition throughout the phases. In phase 1, we do a little bit of carb cycling and carb depleting. And that's, again, just me taking the approach of a lot of us are probably overdoing it on the added sugar that we're eating. And so let's deplete those stores down a little bit. Let's balance everything back out. Let's try to get some insulin sensitivity going, regulated again, and then we'll add them back in. Because I don't want people to fear carbs. There's nothing to fear about them, but let's be aware of what we're talking about. There's a difference between eating a sweet potato and eating cookies and how our body is going to respond to that. So in phase 2, which is month 2, we go into a 13-hour fast because we add a little bit more of the carbs back in. And then phase 3, we go into what would be a 14-hour fast. But I also explain to people, I understand that could be a little bit harder. Work with the 12, anywhere between 12 and 14 hours. Pay attention when you're around your cycle. A 14-hour fast can feel a lot more challenging when you're approaching menstruation or even on your cycle. So if that is the time of a month that you're in and 12 hours is all you got. That's what you do. So really with Belle Vitale, while I'm giving a lot of guidelines in the program, I'm really trying to get women to learn their bodies and pay attention to what their body is signaling to them and what feels good. When I'm writing programs, I'm writing for the masses. And so I'm doing my best to give guidelines that I feel like can really support everybody, but then there's the bio-individuality aspect that has to come into play. And the only way I can teach that is by constantly reminding people what feels good to you. I'm not asking, what craving do you want to satisfy? I'm saying what feels really good in your body. And so, yeah, we work with the 12 to 14 hour fast, but not going really longer than that because, again, we're trying to manage the stress load on the body.
Yeah.
And longer can put too much on us.
Yeah. I love it. I love this approach. That's why I wanted to be involved in the way that I am, and I'm happy, so honored that you asked me to be, because it is a flexible, intuitive approach. It's not punishing somebody. It's not abusing a tool that does have some exciting science around it when it comes to metabolic health and blood sugar regulation and gut microbiome balancing, longevity benefits. I could go on and on. But then people overcorrect. Again, we like to overdo things and abuse things in our culture without looking at this sort of beautiful science and art of this flexible approach to fasting, which you've taught so eloquently within this program. All right, something you talked about for yourself that was such a big point of your own healing and recovery was stress, and you intentionally brought breathwork, these parasympathetic supporting tools within this program. Why should people not sleep on this? Because the nutrition, the fasting, the workouts, people get it, but then you talk about these sort of yin things, right? These acts of stillness, I call them. People just overlook it, right? They may think that's not for them. They're not good at it. They don't really give it the time and the consistency that it needs. But why is it so important to bring in these parasympathetic tools like breathwork into their life?
I feel like this is the easiest tool you will ever implement. We all breathe all day, every day. You have to breathe to stay alive. So you're doing it anyways. And we're probably so unaware. I was so unaware of what a shallow breather I was. In fact, when I started the breathwork techniques, it was so hard for me to take a 5-second inhale. My diaphragm did not want to move or expand to get that really deep belly breath. And I remember thinking, wow, why is this so hard? Like every time I would try to do it, my shoulders would go up. And I quickly realized, okay, this is a problem that I need to address. But we don't realize how fast that breathing technique can take us into the rest and digest, can take us into the parasympathetic, can calm us down when we're heightened and anxious, dealing with, traffic. You're on a work call that's stressing you out. You're in a meeting. You're dealing with your kids. Anytime you're stressed, it is so easy to just slow your breathing down, to just bring awareness to it. And I am one of those people that always had a really hard time with acts of stillness. I'm a go, go, go person. So the thought of sitting and meditating stresses me out. Because I got too much to do, right? That would be my mindset. I've got too much to do. I don't have time to sit here and meditate. And I've definitely journaled over the years. And while I love that tool, it wasn't necessarily helping me in the way I needed it. I really needed something strong and powerful. And the breath work was the thing that I did that I instantly felt relief when I started doing it. And I could, we live in an age where we're connected and we've got my Oura ring on, or I would have my Apple Watch on, or, my bed tracks my sleep. And I could recognize, I could look at the stats if I would do my 4-7-8 breath work for 2 minutes before I went to bed. And I could see a significant difference in how quickly I fell asleep, my heart rate variability, my breath rate, and my sleep quality. Instantly. Or I could see it if I'm in a stressful state and I would take a few minutes to breathe. I could literally watch the heart rate come down. But more importantly than that, I could feel the tension just ease out of my body. Mm-hmm. And it feels so good.
So you're weaving this within the protocol. How are people doing it? How much time do they have to commit to it if they're like, all right, I'll give it a try? What do they have to do, bare minimum, to see the benefits?
I tell people it's just pick a technique a day. And by the way, these are like 60-second breathing techniques. And then people are like, well, when am I supposed to do it? And my response is, when are you stressed? Are you in traffic? Do it. Again, are the kids driving you nuts? Do it. Learn one or two of them, because like I said, it takes 60 to 90 seconds to learn one of these, and have it in your back pocket. Like, that's how I started. So the Breathwork app is included for 3 months free with the program. And when I downloaded that Breathwork app for the first time and started using it, I would just go through, because you could scroll by like, are you looking for something to calm you, for something for anxiety, something to wake you up, traveling, sleep, and I would search. So I would, okay, what's one for anxiety? That's a big one for me. Okay, let me just learn this one, and now I know what it is. So now when I'm stressed, I'll go to that one. You don't have to necessarily put the app on every single time you're stressed or find a different one. It's finding 3 or 4 that you just have, or really 1 or 2.
Yeah.
4-7-8 is my go-to every night before I go to bed.
Got it. And for people that don't know, what is the 4-7-8, so they can kind of imagine.
Yeah. Okay. So it's you can be laying or sitting up nice and tall, but you're going to inhale for 4 counts slowly through your nose, really thinking about going deep into your belly, feeling your belly expand and your ribs expand horizontally. So it's in for 4, you hold for a count of 7, and then you exhale through your mouth for a count of 8. And you do it you could start with a minute. I do it now for 2 to 3 minutes, and you will feel so relaxed, so calm. And there is science behind it and research that has been done to show how effective it is especially if you're somebody that struggles with insomnia or sleep or falling asleep, or if you're somebody that wakes up. Great. If you wake up, 4-7-8 breathing, let yourself drift back to sleep.
Yeah, great. This has been so good. So something I didn't want to skip over that popped in my mind when we were talking about the breath, was the nutrition side of the carb cycling. You mentioned not wanting to do it too much. Like, how do you use carb cycling and why?
I've used it for many different reasons over the years. Again, it started back when I was a fitness competitor and really depleting the glycogen, which helps deplete the water stores. So we would use it. We would carb cycle for 3 weeks before we took the stage to make sure that when we got on stage, as it's referenced as being dry, so that your muscle definition is coming out more and more. But I have also obviously learned the benefits over the years of how it affects our blood sugar and our insulin. And again, can even impact your cortisol levels. Everything is connected. And so when you first come into the program, I'm assuming that a lot of people are following the Western diet, the standard American diet. We're probably overeating on carbohydrates that aren't so great for us, a lot of highly processed ones that probably have a lot of added sugar. It's something I hear people say all the time, because they obviously have to read food labels because we're being aware of our added sugars in the program. And they start going, oh my gosh, I didn't realize how much added sugar I was taking in a day. So we're just trying to deplete those stores so that as we add in the good carbohydrates, the fruit and the healthy carbs, the starchy carbs, rice and beans and legumes and things like that are coming with the fiber, our body can use it properly so that it is being used more as fuel and for the functions of our body, our metabolic functions, instead of just getting stored as fat, because our liver can't keep up and our insulin is now numb to what we're putting in, and it's not getting pushed into our cells properly. So that's why we use it in phase 1. We don't use it in phase 2 and 3. Like I said, it's not something where I want people to start to fear carbs. I want them to understand you really don't actually have to do a huge amount of carb cycling or depleting if you're eating really healthy on a regular basis and balancing those and being aware of your added sugar.
Got it. Thanks for clarifying that. So I mean, for the sake of the program, are you having people measure grams of carbs throughout the day? Is it sort of ballpark? What's your advice there?
It's done for them. So we're using the color-coded container system like we've used for Portion Fix and Gut Protocol. So the macros change ever so slightly all throughout the program, through each phase. And there is a little bit bigger emphasis on healthy fats because obviously hormones are made from healthy fats and healthy fat is going to keep us satiated longer. So there's a little bit more emphasis on the healthy fats. We're always going with a balanced protein level. So our protein intake is always 30% of our calories. And then I play with the healthy fat and the carbohydrates depending on what phase we're in. We'll go as high as 45% healthy fat and 20% carbs. But again, that's really more when we're in the cycling part of it. But in general, we're like close to a 40-30-30 split, 40% fat, 30% protein, 30% carbs.
Got it.
Throughout the program. And you don't have to count any of that. That is one of the things I think that is so challenging is people constantly having to count and look at the macros or be like, well, I can't go out to eat because I don't know what's in the food. When you use the container system, I've done all of that work in the back end. So that we're not nitpicking it. We're not taking it down to the calorie or down to the exact gram, but we're coming in within a range. And as long as you're kind of falling in that range, you're going to be balanced. That's the big goal is let's not just say, oh, eat a bunch of this, but don't eat any of that. I'm not trying to demonize anything other than maybe making people aware that a lot of these, like I said, frankenfoods don't really serve as a purpose. I know they taste good. But we can make healthy food taste good too. That's the thing. We can make desserts and things taste really good that don't have all the additives and preservatives and food dyes and excessive amounts of sugar in them.
Yeah, truth. So I've never talked to you about this, but like hearing you thread all of this journey that you've been on professionally and personally, like I feel like what you're doing with Belle Vitale now in many ways is like 21 Day Fix for a new era where it's not 21 days just like, okay, then this is truly a lifestyle change because you're educating people about how food makes them feel and just this whole sort of inside out sustainable wellness. Do you see that as like the next era of what you've been working on for so many years?
Absolutely. That's really what it has come to. It's my learning and my journey has allowed me to share that and say, look, when it was 21 Day Fix, of course I wanted people eating really healthy and exercising, but there just wasn't as big of an emphasis on, like we really were showing the weight loss results and the physique results. This, with Belle Vitale, we took almost 50 women through the program. We did blood work before, midway, and end of the program. We've got proprietary supplements with the program. I really wanted to show that it worked. I didn't just want to say they lost weight. I wanted to prove that their hormones actually improved and moved into a better range than they were in. Cortisol curves were restored. Insulin sensitivity was restored. Blood sugar came back into balance. So that really is the direction I am headed in. And as you know, sometimes it's not the easiest direction to get that point across to people. But if we can stop and remember that we are literally made out of what we eat, that our cells are made out of what we eat, what turns on and what turns off is determined by what you're putting in. The weight loss or the physique you want really becomes easy. We make it so hard because we're trying to muscle our way through it because we're not focusing on health. So many people want to know, I'm going to say this and pardon my French, they say, how can I eat the shittiest and still look the best? That's what they want. And it's just, we got to make it about health. How can I enjoy what I'm eating, but maybe I don't have to be so gluttonous about it? How can I enjoy what I'm eating, but making it from fresher ingredients? What can I do today to take a step in the right direction of feeling my best and living my healthiest life? And when you're doing that, everything else becomes a lot easier. People ask me all the time, like, okay, well, you've sustained this for 20 plus years. How do you do it? And it's every day I wake up and I choose health. That doesn't mean that I don't sometimes eat the cake at my son's birthday or have the cocktail when I'm out with my friends. It just means it's not my norm. My norm is really healthy, fresh delicious food. I keep it pretty simple because I'm busy. You don't have to be in the kitchen for hours. But it feels good when I put that really good quality food in, and it doesn't feel so good when I don't.
Yeah. And everything you're doing within this program is sustainable, right? I mean, the breath work is meant so you're not like burning yourself out. So many people are going through different variations of burnout and dysregulation and hypervigilance in their life. And that sort of wired and tired, exhausted state. And they're killing themselves in the gym if they are working out. People are like overdoing that, or they're doing these restrictive diets, right? And then punishing themselves that way. Like this is like the anti-punishing program, right? You're just, it's supporting that parasympathetic on every level.
And I think it's so important for people to recognize too. Like I say this all the time, Belle Vitale is not the end all be all. Like you're going to do this and there's never a hormonal symptom that comes up or you'll never get out of balance again. It actually helps you identify faster when something is going on. So for me, we just went through a pretty stressful state with a big change in our company. And then we had the fires that for 3.5 weeks. There's been a lot of stress that has come into play. And I started to feel it very quickly. My sleep started to get off. My hot flashes came back a little bit. And I was like, okay, I'm also not paying attention to my stress right now. I'm gonna pay attention to my toxic load because there's a bunch of chemicals in the air from the fires. Let me pay attention to my emotions that I'm going through with this big change in our company. And change is hard. And so it's okay to feel your feelings. Let me give myself the space and the grace to process that, but also let me take the steps I need to for detoxification because of the chemicals and air purifiers and things like that. But when a symptom pops back in, it's not like, oh, I got to squash the symptom. It's let me recognize that means something is out of balance. What do I need to pay attention to right now? Okay, my food is on point. Okay, my fitness is on point. Okay, supplements are there. Stress again. For me, it always circles back to stress. So I really want people to recognize that when a symptom comes up, it's not, oh my gosh, that program doesn't work anymore. Or it worked for a minute, but now it doesn't work. Everything in life is fluid. So it's being aware and listening to those signals that your body is giving. They're a gift. They're a gift to course correct if you recognize it as that.
Yeah. Oh, it's so true. I mean, it's so true because there's so many of us, and I see this on a daily basis with new telehealth patients, is that we in our culture, we're so distracted and numbed and divorced from our body that through this program that you're teaching everybody, you're strengthening that mindful awareness, so you could see which category. Is it food? Is it stress? Is it physical activity? Am I not taking in the right supplements? And you're gaining that sort of agency that people can have. You're teaching people that agency around their bodies, which is so powerful. My friend, this has been a beautiful, blessing conversation. Thank you so much for making it happen. Before we go, the end of every episode, we have Your Art of Being Well. At the end of every episode, we have where I just kind of pick your brain on different aspects of wellness. Are you up for this?
Yeah, absolutely.
Challenge?
Let's do it.
What's the worst tasting healthy food that you eat? And we just talked about like nourishing your body, but I'm doing it for a specific reason, like something that maybe was an acquired taste, something you didn't like at first, but you kind of learned to appreciate it. But it's not done for the taste; it's done for the health benefits. Do you have any food that checks those boxes?
I have a supplementation, I would say, more than a food.
It's okay.
I actually really enjoy my food. But like apple cider vinegar, I'll do that in the morning. Not my fave, but I do it for health benefits. I do a maca drink because maca can help with hormonal balance and regulation. Not the best tasting, but I'll take that. Molecular hydrogen in my water for hydration. Doesn't taste great. So for me, it's more things like that.
These are really good answers. Molecular hydrogen, maca, ACV. Yeah, really good answers.
Yeah.
I love all those. Next question is, speaking of supplements, are there like 2 supplements that are maybe like lesser known that you want more people to know about that you take on a regular basis?
Well, okay, I'm going to say the Belle Vitale supplements, but let me be a little clear about like things that are in them. So the stress support supplement has things like magnesium, B vitamins, vitamin C, ashwagandha, rhodiola, adaptogens. So being aware, like that's a proprietary blend. And obviously people know your B vitamins. Those are your energy vitamins, vitamin C, immunity, vitamin D, very important for immune function. Ashwagandha and rhodiola can help with cortisol regulation and stress. So those are two big ones. Blood sugar and metabolism support. We've got the chromium in there, which can really help with blood sugar regulation. We've got grapefruit extract and guarana in there that helps with fat burning. But also, we're making sure the way that that supplement is designed, it also has mulberry extract in there. It helps your body burn the fat. It helps with body recomposition. It's going to also help with metabolizing your carbohydrates, but will also help protect against loss of lean muscle mass, which I think is really important as well. It's going to help with fat cravings. So things like that. People are, I think, a little less aware of grapefruit and guarana.
Yeah.
But little side note, if you're on medications, definitely check with your doctor because grapefruit can interact with certain medications. So I like to put that out there.
Give that little disclosure, informed consent. People can talk with their doctor. Great answers. The next question I have is, do you have any out of the box, maybe controversial, like maybe the world would see as weird things you've done for your wellness? Like, is there anything that you've done that you're willing to admit on a podcast?
I have done a lot. So with the doctor I see, Dr. Gladden at Gladden Longevity in Dallas, when I first started with him, he runs every test you could ever imagine. We have done my full genetic panel. So like they've cut my hair and tested for heavy metals. It's definitely been specimens.
Dramatic
bowel
pause,
movements
specimens.
and urine, blood, saliva, you name it. I have given it to him.
All the bodily fluids you have given it.
I have had my brain tested. Like we've tested how I respond to stress. Yeah, we've tested it all.
Yeah, that's what we do in functional medicine. We take all the specimens.
Yeah, everything. We've checked it all. And, I know not everybody can do that. I'm lucky to be able to afford to be able to do those types of things. But in learning those things, I feel like even getting to talk about it and educate it and make people aware, oh, yeah, that's something I could take into consideration. I've got a lot of genetic predispositions, my mom and dad. I got a lot of double reds with the genes.
Yeah.
So
those
I
homozygous SNPs, man. Thanks, mom and dad.
Yeah, thanks, mom and dad. But it also makes me aware of a lot of things that I can do to work to improve those things.
Yeah. Yep. Knowledge is power, as they say.
Yeah.
What's a book that you've read? It could be a fiction book, nonfiction book, but I'm getting this like running list for the Art of Being Well book club. What should I add to the list?
I just finished Mel Robbins' Let Them, which I actually think is a great book.
It is a great book. I thought, okay, this is going to be pretty simple, but it was really beautiful. I listened to the audiobook and she did a great job.
Yes, I actually listen to the audio and then I go through and I'll highlight in the book at the same time. So if there's certain things I want to really remember and be able to flip back to. And yeah, it was such a great theory and in terms of when you think about stress and how so much of like social media and family and friends and all that can impact us. A lot of great techniques to release some of that.
Yeah. My friend, this has been great. Where do people go to learn about the work, the Belle Vitale program? Where do they go?
Yes, you can find me on Instagram at Autumn Calabrese, YouTube at Autumn Calabrese, Facebook, my website, autumncalabrese.com. Belle Vitale is now available in the U.S. and Canada, and you can learn more about that program at bellevitale.com.
Autumn, thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much. This was great.